judge ordered her daughter to choose a new father among the lawyers, but she chose the janitor. Judge Catherine Reynolds was at the end of her rope. For 2 years, she had been trying to rebuild her life and her daughter's after losing her husband. But little Emma grew quieter and sadder with each passing day. The 5-year-old had completely stopped smiling in recent months. It was during an especially difficult afternoon, in the middle of a custody hearing, that Catherine made a decision that would change everything. Emma was sitting in the hallway bench, waiting for her mother to finish work, when she began to cry softly. The judge interrupted the session and, seeing her daughter's despair, announced something that left everyone stunned. "My daughter will choose a new father today," Catherine said, her voice trembling. "Anyone who wishes to volunteer may step forward now." Silence fell over the room. The 4 most distinguished lawyers present exchanged surprised glances. Catherine had lost the composure she always maintained in court. Her colleagues whispered among themselves, concerned by what they were witnessing. Attorney Richard Blackwell, the most experienced lawyer there, was the first to speak. "Judge Reynolds, with all due respect, perhaps it would be better to discuss this privately." "No," Catherine interrupted, rising from her seat. "My daughter needs a father figure. You are all successful, established men. Any one of you would be a good choice." The lawyer Andrew Thompson, known for his ambition, immediately stepped forward. "I accept the challenge. I have experience with children and excellent financial means." Charles Wilson and Philip Garrison also expressed interest. Catherine called Emma into the room, explaining that she should choose who she wanted as her new daddy. The little girl entered hesitantly, looking at the 4 men in suits who smiled stiffly at her. Emma said nothing, only lowering her head. That's when she heard the sound of a broom being dragged down the hallway. Without warning anyone, Emma ran out of the room. Catherine and the lawyers followed, finding the girl standing in front of Michael Peterson, the janitor who was cleaning the hallway in his grey work uniform and cap. Emma pointed directly at him and spoke the first full word she had said in weeks. "Daddy." Michael nearly dropped his broom. His eyes widened as he saw the child pointing at him, while everyone stared in shock. Catherine froze, unsure how to react to her daughter's unexpected choice. "Emma, sweetheart, come back here," Catherine called, her voice shaking. "These gentlemen here are important people. Choose one of them." But Emma shook her head and moved closer to Michael, clutching the hem of his pants. The janitor, a man in his 40s with graying hair at his temples, looked at Catherine helplessly. "I'm sorry, Judge. I don't know why. This is ridiculous." Andrew cut in angrily. "The child clearly doesn't understand what's happening. She needs psychological help immediately." Catherine's cheeks burned with embarrassment. Here she was, one of the most respected judges in the city, being defied by her own daughter in front of her colleagues. The pressure of the moment led her to make a hasty decision. "Emma will have 1 week to get to know these gentlemen better," she announced, trying to maintain her dignity. "Then she will make her final choice." The lawyers exchanged satisfied looks, while Michael remained frozen, still holding his broom. Emma tightened her grip on his pants, as if afraid he might leave. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. In the following days, each lawyer tried in a different way to win over little Emma. Richard Blackwell, with his 60 years of vast experience, took the girl to the most luxurious mall in the city. "Pick whatever you want, Emma," he said, pointing to a massive toy store. "Anything you see can be yours." Emma looked at the shelves filled with dolls, games, and expensive stuffed animals. She picked up a few items, but soon put them back. When Richard asked what she wanted, Emma only whispered, "Where's the janitor?" Richard sighed impatiently. How could a child prefer a janitor to a man who could give her everything? Andrew Thompson, on the other hand, planned an even more elaborate outing. He took Emma on a helicopter ride over New York City, hoping to impress her with the view from above. "Look at this amazing view, Emma. You can see everything from up here. When you're my daughter, we'll do this every week." Emma pressed her face against the helicopter window, but she wasn't admiring the scenery. Her eyes searched for the courthouse, trying to spot where Michael might be at that moment. "Is he down there?" she asked, pointing below. Who, sweetheart? The man who mops the floor. Andrew clenched his fists. How had that simple man captured the child's attention so completely? Charles Wilson tried a different approach. He organized a private party at his mansion, complete with clowns, princesses, and an elaborate buffet. Dozens of children were invited to keep Emma company. "How about this, Emma? A party just for you," Charles said, gesturing at the colorful decorations and costumed characters. Emma hid behind Catherine as soon as they arrived. The noise of the other children, the loud music, and all the commotion frightened her. She spent the entire party under a table, refusing to join the fun. "I want to go home," she repeated whenever someone tried to coax her out. Philip Garrison, the youngest of the four, thought he had found the perfect strategy. He discovered Emma loved to draw and bought the most expensive art supplies he could find. "Look at these imported colored pencils, Emma, and this special paper. You can draw whatever you want." Emma took a pencil and began drawing quietly. Philip smiled, thinking he had finally succeeded, but when he saw the drawing, his smile faded. Emma had drawn herself next to a man wearing a cap and holding a broom. "Who's this in the drawing?" Philip asked, already knowing the answer. "My friend," Emma replied simply. Meanwhile, Michael continued his normal routine at the courthouse. He arrived early, cleaned the halls, organized the rooms, and rarely spoke to anyone. But whenever he passed the bench where Emma used to wait during her mother's hearings, the girl would run to hug his legs. "Hi, mister," Emma would say softly, hiding her face against his pants. "Hi, little one," Michael would reply tenderly, stroking her hair. "How are you today?" Emma never answered with words, but her smile said it all. Michael had started bringing tiny homemade snacks that his elderly neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, prepared especially for the girl. "Mrs. Henderson made you a little cookie," he'd say, offering a simple bag. Emma ate each cookie with delight, something she hadn't done at home in months. Catherine watched these interactions on the courthouse security cameras, feeling a mix of confusion and something she couldn't quite name. One afternoon, she caught Michael teaching Emma how to make paper airplanes from documents meant for the trash. The girl laughed as the planes flew down the empty hallway. It was the first time in 2 years Catherine had seen her daughter laugh like that. That night, Catherine couldn't sleep. She called her mother, Mrs. Margaret, a 70-year-old woman who always had strong opinions about everything. "Mom, I need to talk to you about a delicate situation." "What is it now, Catherine? You've been acting so strange lately." Catherine told her everything, from the incident in court to the failed outings with the lawyers. Mrs. Margaret listened in silence before exploding. "Have you completely lost your mind? How can you let your daughter get attached to a janitor? What kind of example are you setting for her? Mom, he's a custodian, not a janitor, and Emma hasn't shown this much affection for anyone since her father. I don't care what his job title is, Catherine. He's a man with no social standing, no money. How are you going to introduce him at social gatherings? What will your colleagues think?" Catherine hung up the phone, even more confused than before. The next day, Andrew Thompson approached her with a different proposal. "Catherine, I need to talk to you about this custodian." "What about him?" "I did some discreet digging into his past. I found some interesting things." Catherine felt a chill in her stomach. What kind of things? What? Michael Peterson isn't the simple man he appears to be. He has massive debts, lives in a dangerous neighborhood, and, well, there are other details I'd rather not mention here. Andrew showed her some papers that looked official, but Catherine was too upset to examine them properly. The pressure from all sides was becoming unbearable. "I'll arrange a talk with him," Catherine decided. "I need to clear this up." When she confronted Michael at the end of the workday, he calmly denied all the accusations. "Judge Reynolds, I don't know where they got this information, but I can prove I have no debts. I've lived in the same apartment for 15 years and never missed a rent payment." "Then why would Attorney Thompson have any reason to lie?" Michael lowered his eyes. "I don't know, Mom. But if you think I'm a bad influence on Emma, I can request a transfer to another department." Emma, who had been playing in the nearby hallway, overheard the conversation and began crying desperately. She ran to Michael and clung tightly to his legs. "Don't go! Don't go!" she sobbed. The scene broke Catherine's heart. She saw her daughter in despair, begging a man who was practically a stranger not to disappear from her life. In that moment, Catherine realized she might have been looking at the situation all wrong. That night, Catherine decided to investigate on her own. She went to Michael's apartment in a modest but well-kept housing complex. She spoke to neighbors and discovered surprising things. Mrs. Henderson, the elderly neighbor who made snacks for Emma, welcomed Catherine warmly. "That young man is an angel," she said, offering coffee. "He takes care of me like his own mother. When I'm sick, he takes me to the doctor. Does my shopping when I can't go out." "How long have you known Michael?" "About 10 years. He came here very sad, you know. Lost his family in a tragedy. Didn't speak to anyone for months. Little by little, he opened up, helping everyone around here." Catherine felt a tightness in her chest. "What tragedy?" "A terrible accident. He lost his wife and little boy in a car crash. The boy was the same age as your daughter is now. I think that's why he grew so attached to little Emma." Catherine left with her mind reeling. She began to understand why Emma had connected so deeply with Michael. Somehow, they had both lost their families and recognized each other's pain. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. The next day, Catherine sought more information about Michael's past. She discovered that he had been a university literature professor before the tragedy. His former colleagues described him as a brilliant and dedicated man who loved teaching. "Michael was the best professor we had," shared the dean of the college where he worked. "When he lost his family, he fell into a deep depression. He resigned and said he needed time. He never came back." Why did he choose to become a janitor? I think he wanted a simple job without pressure, something to help him start over slowly. Catherine also found out that Michael used part of his salary to buy school supplies for underprivileged children in the neighborhood. On weekends, he visited public libraries to read to orphaned children. He was a man who had transformed his pain into generosity, but social pressure was mounting. Other judges began questioning Catherine's judgment. Some colleagues hinted that she had been emotionally unstable since losing her husband. "Catherine, you need to think rationally," Judge Augustus Brantley said during lunch. "Your daughter is forming an inappropriate bond. It could harm her development. And it could harm your career too," added Judge Marina Sanders. "People are talking. You need to put an end to this before it becomes a scandal." Catherine felt pressured from all sides. At home, her mother wouldn't stop criticizing the situation. At work, colleagues looked at her with pity or judgment, and Emma grew more attached to Michael each day. The tension escalated when Andrew Thompson organized a charity luncheon at the city's most exclusive club. Catherine was required to attend due to her position. During the event, Andrew took the stage to speak. "Ladies and gentlemen, we live in difficult times where family values are being questioned. We must protect our children from inappropriate influences." Catherine felt he was indirectly referring to her situation. The embarrassment was overwhelming, as several people glanced at her curiously. After the event, Andrew approached her privately. "Catherine, I'm offering you a dignified solution. Marry me and I'll resolve this issue with Emma. She'll have a respectable father and you'll restore your reputation. Are you proposing a marriage of convenience? I'm offering stability for you and your daughter. Think carefully before refusing." Catherine returned home that night emotionally exhausted. That's when she found Emma's drawings scattered around the room. All depicted the same scene: her, Michael, and colorful butterflies flying around. One drawing had a childlike note: "He smells like Daddy." Intrigued, Catherine asked Emma what it meant, and the little girl innocently explained that Michael wore the same cologne her father had used. Curious, Catherine went to the bathroom and retrieved the bottle of aftershave she still kept from her husband, a cheap brand he bought at the supermarket. The next day, she discreetly observed Michael up close and confirmed. It was exactly the same scent. That seemingly small detail deeply affected Catherine. Had Emma bonded with Michael because of this unconscious olfactory memory, or was there something deeper in their connection? She decided to speak honestly with Michael. She called him into her office after work. "Michael, I need you to be honest with me. Why do you care so much about my daughter?" Michael took a deep breath before answering. Judge Reynolds, when I lost my son, I thought I'd never feel affection for a child again. But Emma, she reminds me of him. Not in looks, but in her spirit, in her innocence, and I realize she's suffering just as I did. You lost your son in an accident? Yes. He was 5, the same age as Emma. He was joyful, affectionate, curious about everything. When he left, a part of me left with him. Catherine felt tears in her eyes. And your wife? Mary was pregnant with our second child. We lost them both in the same accident. After that, I couldn't teach anymore. I was a literature professor, but words lost their meaning. Why did you become a janitor? I wanted a job where I could help without having to talk much, where I could be useful in simple ways. And here, I found peace, until Emma came along and changed everything again. Catherine understood that Michael wasn't trying to take advantage of the situation. He genuinely cared for Emma, and she cared for him. But the social pressure was overwhelming. A few days later, the court secretary, Mrs. Rogers, a 65-year-old woman who had worked there for decades, approached Catherine. Judge, may I give my opinion? Of course, Mrs. Rogers. I've seen everyone pass through here for a long time. I've seen important men who were terrible fathers and simple men with enormous hearts. Michael is the second kind. What do you mean? He arrives here every morning at 6, an hour early. He cleans the hallway where Emma stays especially well, leaves everything smelling fresh and tidy. When she doesn't come, he gets worried, asks if she's okay. Mrs. Rogers continued, the other day I saw him praying in the courthouse chapel. Do you know what he was praying for? For the well-being of all the children who come through here, including Emma. Catherine was moved by this revelation. Michael didn't just like Emma, he genuinely cared for her even when they weren't together. But the pressure grew when Mrs. Margaret appeared at the courthouse for a serious talk with her daughter. Catherine, I'll be direct. If you insist on this madness, I'll cut ties with you. I can't let my granddaughter grow up thinking she can associate with just anyone. Mum, Michael is a good person. He might be a saint, but he has no social standing. Emma needs to learn about social hierarchy early. If you won't act, I will. Her mother's threat left Catherine even more distressed. Mrs. Margaret had influence in society and could truly harm Catherine and Emma's reputation. That same day, Andrew showed up with more evidence against Michael. He presented documents showing credit card debts and overdue loans. See for yourself, Catherine. This man can't even manage his own finances. How will he care for a child? Catherine eyed the papers skeptically. Something didn't seem right. Where did you get these? I have my contacts. The important thing is that you see the truth. Michael is a broke man, trying to latch onto an opportunity for a better life. Catherine felt anger at the insinuation. Are you suggesting he's after my money? I'm suggesting you open your eyes before it's too late. Confused and pressured, Catherine decided to confront Michael again. But this time, Emma witnessed the conversation. Michael, are these debts real? Catherine asked, showing the papers. Michael examined them in surprise. Judge, I've never had a credit card, and I don't have any loans. Someone forged these. Why would anyone do that? I don't know. But I can prove my financial situation. I have all my records at home. Emma, who had been listening in secret, began to cry. She ran to Michael and hugged his legs tightly. Why are you being mean to him? Emma sobbed. He's good. He takes care of me. Emma's reaction hit Catherine like a punch to the gut. Her daughter was defending Michael with all her might. It was the first time in 2 years Emma had shown such passion for anything. That night, Catherine couldn't sleep. She got up and went to check on Emma, finding her awake too. Mom, is he leaving? Emma asked with eyes red from crying. I don't know, sweetheart. It's complicated. I don't want him to leave. He reminds me of Daddy. Catherine sat on the bed beside her daughter. What do you mean? When Daddy hugged me, I felt safe. It's the same with him. And he smells like Daddy used to. Catherine realized the connection between Emma and Michael was much deeper than she'd imagined. It wasn't just affection, it was a real emotional need for the child. The next day, Catherine decided to investigate the authenticity of the documents Andrew had shown her on her own. She called the bank and discovered Michael Peterson truly had no accounts under his name at that institution. She consulted a document expert who confirmed her suspicions. The papers were forged. Someone had fabricated false evidence against Michael. When she confronted Andrew about it, he grew visibly nervous. There must have been a mistake in the documents. My contacts might have gotten it wrong. Or you could be lying deliberately, Catherine shot back. Why would I do that? Because you want me to marry you and are trying to eliminate any competition, even if it's just a janitor. Andrew couldn't hide his irritation. Catherine, you're making a mistake that will ruin your life and your daughter's. The only mistake I'm making is listening to people who judge others by their profession. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. Catherine decided she needed to get to know Michael better before making any final decisions. She invited him to dinner at her house over the weekend, surprising and worrying her mother. Have you lost your mind? Mrs. Margaret complained over the phone. Inviting that man into your home? What will the neighbors think? Mom, I need to know him better before judging. Emma likes him and I have to understand why. On Saturday evening, Michael arrived right on time for dinner. He was nervous but trying to hide it. He brought simple flowers for Catherine and a small children's storybook for Emma. Thank you for the flowers, Catherine said, welcoming him into the living room. You're welcome. And this book is for Emma. I found it at a used book fair. They're stories I used to tell my son. Emma took the book tenderly and immediately asked Michael to read her a story. Catherine watched as he sat on the couch and Emma snuggled beside him. Michael read in a soft, expressive voice, giving each character a different tone. Emma laughed and engaged with the story, asking questions and making comments. It was a scene Catherine hadn't seen in a long time, her daughter completely absorbed and happy. During dinner, Catherine learned surprising things about Michael. He was well-read, speaking knowledgeably about literature, art, and music. He shared stories of when he was a teacher and how much he loved teaching. Why didn't you ever go back to teaching? Catherine asked. After I lost my family, I couldn't focus anymore. I'd look at the young students and think about how my son might have been. It was too painful. And if you had another chance? Would you teach again? Michael thought for a moment. Maybe, if I found the right motivation. Emma, who had eaten all her food for the first time in months, asked Michael to tell her another story before bed. Catherine watched as he tucked the girl in and made up a tale about brave butterflies. Thank you for coming, Catherine said, as they said goodbye. Thank you for inviting me. Emma is a special girl. She reminds me there are still good things in the world. After Michael left, Catherine reflected on the evening. She had seen a side of him she never knew existed. He wasn't just a kind janitor, but an intelligent and sensitive man who had lost everything and chose simplicity to heal. By Monday, the gossip about the dinner had already spread through the courthouse. Catherine felt the curious glances of her colleagues and staff. Andrew approached her, visibly irritated. I heard you invited the janitor to dinner at your house. So what? Catherine, you're destroying your reputation. People are talking. Let them talk. I need to do what's best for my daughter, not satisfy gossip. You'll regret this. Andrew slammed the door on his way out, and Catherine realized there was more behind his insistence. She began to suspect he had motives beyond just helping her. A few days later, old Jack, the courthouse security guard, a man in his 60s who'd worked there for decades, approached Catherine. Judge, can I say something about Michael? Of course, Jack. That young man is pure gold. When he started working here 15 years ago, he was very sad. Little by little, he opened up. He's always helped everyone without asking for anything in return. Jack continued. When my wife got sick, he helped me take her to the hospital several times, never wanted a thing. And every Friday, he buys bread for the entire cleaning crew. He does that? Yes, ma'am. And there's more. He studies, you know. Any free moment he's reading a book. The librarian told me he borrows books about child development. Catherine was surprised. Child development? Yes. Ever since your daughter started coming here, he's been studying how to care for kids. Wants to do everything right, you see. This revelation deeply moved Catherine. Michael was preparing himself to be a proper father figure for Emma, studying and learning about it. But the pressure kept mounting. Mrs. Margaret organized a family meeting to talk sense into Catherine. Uncles, cousins, and other relatives were there, all with strong opinions. "Catherine, you need to think about Emma's inheritance," said Uncle Robert. "If you marry that janitor, people will question your ability to manage her assets. And imagine when Emma grows up and realizes you chose a stepfather with no money because of a child's whim," added Aunt Claudia. Catherine felt attacked from all sides. Her own family was against her happiness, and Emma's. "You don't understand." Catherine tried to defend herself. "Emma is doing well for the first time in 2 years. She's eating, smiling, talking. That's priceless." "It's temporary," Mrs. Margaret shot back. "When the novelty wears off, she'll realize she was tricked." Catherine left the meeting even more confused and pressured. She had to make a decision, but every option seemed wrong. The next day, something happened that changed everything. Emma slipped away from her nanny at school and showed up at the courthouse, running through the halls looking for Michael. When she found him, she was crying desperately. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" Michael asked, kneeling to her level. "Grandma said you're leaving. She said Mommy can't love you because you don't have money." Michael looked around and saw dozens of people watching. Catherine came running, alerted by the school about Emma's disappearance. "Emma, you scared me," Catherine said, scooping her up. "Mum, don't let him go." "Please," Emma begged, tears in her eyes. The scene unfolded in front of the entire courthouse. Catherine knew it was time for a final decision. "Let's talk at home," Catherine said, trying to calm Emma. But Emma refused to leave Michael's arms. "I want him to come too." Catherine looked at Michael, who was clearly embarrassed by the public situation. "Michael, can you come with us? If you think it's best. I believe Emma needs a serious talk with both of us." The three left the courtroom under the curious gazes of staff and lawyers. Andrew watched the scene with barely concealed anger. At Catherine's house, Emma refused to leave Michael's side. Catherine realized she needed to make a decision that respected her daughter's feelings, even if it went against social expectations. "Emma, are you sure you want Michael to be your father?" Catherine asked directly. "Yes," Emma replied without hesitation. "He takes care of me just like Daddy did." Catherine looked at Michael. "And you? Are you ready to be a father to a 5-year-old girl?" Michael took a deep breath. "Judge Reynolds, I love Emma as if she were my own daughter. If you give me this chance, I'll do everything to be the best father she could have. Even knowing you'll face prejudice? That people will question your motives? Even then, the love I feel for both of you is stronger than any prejudice." Catherine noticed Michael had included her in his declaration. Her heart raced. "Michael, you're saying that?" "I'm saying I've fallen in love with both of you. With Emma first, who taught me how to love again, and with you, a courageous mother and an amazing woman." Catherine was silent for a few seconds. It had been so long since she'd felt desired and loved by a man, and Michael was kind, affectionate, and sincere in a way she never found in the lawyers who courted her. "I need to think," Catherine finally said. "I understand. I just want you to know that no matter your decision, I'll always love Emma, even if it's just as the janitor she likes." That night, Catherine had a difficult conversation with herself. She listed the pros and cons of being with Michael. On the negative side, social pressure, class differences, family criticism. On the positive side, Emma was happy, Michael was a good man, and she felt good around him. She decided her daughter's happiness was more important than others' opinions. But before making a final decision, she wanted to be sure Michael was truly who he seemed. The next day, Catherine did something she'd never done before. She discreetly investigated Michael's personal life. She visited the library where he studied, spoke with the librarian, and discovered he really was reading about child development and psychology. "He comes here every week," the librarian said, "reads everything about helping children who've lost parents. He's very dedicated." Catherine also visited the school where Michael had taught. The principal remembered him well. Mr. Peterson was exceptional. The students adored him. When he lost his family, I offered paid leave, but he chose to resign, said he needed to start over. Would he be welcome if he wanted to return? With open arms. We still have his position available. Catherine began forming a plan. If Michael returned to teaching, it would lessen the social gap between them and make society's acceptance easier. But before she could discuss it with him, Andrew took drastic action. He confronted Michael directly in the courtroom in front of several people. "How much do you want to stay out of their lives?" Andrew asked bluntly. "What do you mean?" Michael replied, confused. "Everyone has a price. How much to disappear and leave Catherine alone? I don't want any money. $50,000. That's more than you make in 2 years. Michael was shocked by the offer. "Are you trying to buy me? I'm giving you a chance to better your life and do the right thing. The right thing is me taking care of Emma and loving Catherine." Andrew raised his offer. $100,000. That's my final offer. To everyone's surprise, Michael Peterson responded, "I accept." Silence filled the hallway. Catherine, who arrived at that moment and overheard the end of the conversation, froze. Had Michael taken money to leave their lives? "Michael?" Catherine called out, her voice trembling. He turned and saw the disappointment in her eyes. "Catherine, I can explain." "There's nothing to explain. Now I know who you really are." Catherine ran off with tears in her eyes. Emma, who was with her, also heard the conversation and began to cry. "Why did Uncle sell our friendship?" Emma asked between sobs. Catherine didn't know how to respond. She felt betrayed and deceived. Maybe Andrew had been right all along. For the next 3 days, Michael didn't show up at the courthouse. Emma fell into a deep sadness, refusing to eat or speak. Catherine tried to comfort her, but she too was hurting from the feeling of betrayal. Andrew appeared constantly, offering support and saying he had done it to protect them. Catherine was so confused that she almost accepted when he renewed his marriage proposal. But on the 4th day, Michael returned to the courthouse with a folder of documents. He looked for Catherine in her office. "Can I explain what happened?" he asked. "There's nothing to explain. You've shown your true character." "Catherine, please, look at these documents." Michael showed papers proving he had used the $100,000 to create 2 funds, one for Emma's education and another to help underprivileged children in the area. "I didn't take the money for myself," Michael explained. "I accepted it to prove that my love for you is priceless. Every cent went toward Emma's future and other children's needs." Catherine examined the documents in shock. They were legal contracts showing the money had been fully donated. "But why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Because I wanted the paperwork ready. I needed to prove I'm not here for your money or social status." Catherine felt a mix of relief and admiration. Michael had turned a bribe attempt into an act of generosity. "How did you manage this so quickly?" "I reached out to a lawyer friend from my teaching days. He helped me set it all up for free." Just then, Emma appeared at the office door. She had slipped away from the babysitter again to find Michael at the courthouse. When she saw him, she ran into his arms. "You came back," Emma shouted joyfully. "I did, little one. And I'm never leaving again, if your mother allows it." Catherine watched them embrace and felt certain she was making the right choice. "Michael, would you like to have dinner at our place tonight?" "May I?" "You may, and this time I want you to stay." That night, Catherine and Michael talked late after Emma fell asleep. He shared his plans to return to teaching, how he wanted to be a good father to Emma, and how he had fallen for Catherine. "When did that happen?" Catherine asked. "When I saw you defending Emma in court that first day. I saw a brave mother fighting for her daughter's happiness. And then, when we started talking, I realized you're an incredible woman. But you know our relationship will face a lot of criticism, don't you?" "I do. But I also know true love is worth any fight." Catherine agreed. "Then we'll fight together." But the battle was only beginning. When news spread through town that Catherine was involved with the janitor, the backlash was fierce. Her mother threatened to sue for custody of Emma. Colleagues at the courthouse questioned her professional judgment. Prominent attorneys threatened to stop taking cases in her courtroom. "Catherine, you have to choose," said Chief Judge Paul Mitchell. Your career or this relationship? Why must I choose? My personal life doesn't interfere with my work. It does when it causes this kind of scandal. People are losing respect for the court. Judge Catherine Reynolds realized the pressure was becoming unbearable, but Emma was happier than ever, and she herself felt complete by Michael Peterson's side. The situation worsened when Andrew Thompson, furious over being rejected and losing the money, began spreading lies about Michael. He fabricated stories about his past and publicly questioned his mental stability. A man who loses his family and becomes a janitor clearly has psychological issues, Andrew said in an interview with the local newspaper. The article ran with the sensational headline, "Judge involved with unstable employee." Catherine was furious and decided it was time to fight back. She sought out a defamation lawyer and sued Andrew for slander. She also gave an interview sharing her side of the story, speaking about Michael's character and how Emma had transformed since he came into their lives. "My daughter is happy for the first time in 2 years," Catherine said in the interview. "That means more than any social prejudice." The interview stirred emotions across the city. Many people rallied behind Catherine, especially mothers who understood her struggle. Letters of support flooded the courthouse from all over the country. Mrs. Rogers, the veteran secretary, organized a petition among the courthouse staff in support of Catherine and Michael. Most employees signed, showing that those who worked with them daily saw the sincerity of their relationship. Michael, motivated by the support and the need to prove his worth, decided to return to teaching. He reached out to his old school and was welcomed enthusiastically. "Professor, your position has always been open," the principal said. "When can you start?" "Next week, but I'll keep working at the courthouse too, part-time in both places." Michael's decision to return to teaching shifted public perception of him. He was no longer just the janitor, but a respected teacher who had faced personal hardships. Catherine felt proud watching Michael back in the classroom. He was radiant, teaching literature to teenagers with the same passion as before. Emma attended one of his classes and was enchanted watching Uncle explain poetry. "Mom, Uncle is so smart," Emma remarked afterward. "Why did people say he wasn't good?" "Because sometimes people judge by appearances, not by the heart," Catherine explained. Michael's transformation also inspired other courthouse employees. Some returned to school, others discovered hidden talents. He became proof that it's never too late to start over. But Andrew hadn't given up. He discovered Catherine had sued him for slander and decided to retaliate cruelly. He hired a private investigator to follow Michael and dig up any compromising secrets. The investigator found that Michael visited a cemetery every week. Andrew thought he'd uncovered something suspicious and decided to use the information maliciously. During a public hearing at the courthouse, Andrew stood and made a dramatic accusation. "Ladies and gentlemen, I've discovered something disturbing about the man Judge Reynolds has chosen to be a father figure to her daughter." Catherine's heart raced. What had Andrew found? "Michael Peterson visits a cemetery every week. Not just his family's grave, but others too. Clearly disturbed behavior from someone with an unhealthy obsession with the dead." Whispers spread through the room. Catherine looked at Michael, who was pale but calm. "Is it true you visit other graves?" Catherine asked softly. "It's true," Michael replied loudly for all to hear. "But I can explain why." The courtroom fell silent, waiting for an explanation. "I visit Catherine's late husband's grave every week," Michael revealed. "I bring flowers and talk to him. I tell him how Emma is growing up, how happy she is. I ask for his permission to care for her as if she were my own daughter." The revelation brought an emotional hush over the room. Catherine felt tears welling in her eyes. Michael continued, "And I visit other graves of people who no longer have family to remember them. It's my way of honoring those who left this world alone." Mrs. Rogers stood up from the back of the room. "I can confirm that. I followed Michael a few times out of curiosity. He really does this. He has a very big heart." Old Jack, the security guard, also spoke up. "Michael told me about it. He asked if I'd like to join him to visit my late wife's grave. It was a very kind gesture." Others in the courtroom began voicing their support for Michael. Staff members shared small acts of kindness he performed daily. The humble janitor had earned the respect of everyone who worked with him. Andrew, seeing his plan backfire, tried to defend himself. This doesn't change the fact that he isn't financially stable. He is morally stable, Catherine interrupted, standing, and that matters more than any bank account. She stepped to the center of the room and delivered a speech that would go down in the court's history. Gentlemen, I've learned so much these past months. I've learned that love doesn't choose a profession or a bank balance. I've learned that a good man is worth more than 1,000 wealthy men without character. And I've learned that my daughter has better judgment than many adults here. She pointed to Emma seated in the aisle. My daughter chose Michael because she recognized his kindness and genuine love. She wasn't swayed by social prejudices or financial ambitions. She chose with a pure heart. The courtroom erupted in emotional applause. Even those who had criticized Catherine began admitting they might have been wrong. Emma stood and walked to the center, taking Catherine's and Michael's hands. I want him to be my daddy, she said clearly for all to hear. He takes care of me, makes me laugh, and smells like my daddy who went to heaven. The child's sincerity moved even the most resistant. Mrs. Margaret, present at the hearing, began to cry and approach the group. Catherine, forgive me, she said, her voice trembling. I was wrong. This man truly loves you both. How did you come to that conclusion, Mother? Because only a man who truly loves would visit the grave of the husband of the woman he loves to ask for permission. That shows genuine respect and love. The reconciliation with her mother was a special moment for Catherine. She finally felt she had her family's support. Chief Judge Paul Mitchell, who had pressured Catherine earlier, approached the group. Judge Reynolds, I apologize for the pressure I put on you. I was concerned about the court's image, but now I see you made the right decision. Thank you, Chief Judge Mitchell. In fact, I'd like to make a proposal. Michael, would you be willing to give talks on resilience here at the court, for staff and even for people going through our proceedings? Michael was surprised. It would be an honor. I believe your story could inspire many facing difficult times. The proposal was enthusiastically accepted. Michael began giving monthly talks at the court, sharing how he transformed his pain into love and rebuilt his life. Andrew, seeing he had completely lost, tried to make amends. Catherine, I want to apologize. I acted out of jealousy and ambition. I accept your apology, Andrew, but I hope you learn from this. I have. And I would like to publicly withdraw all the accusations I made against Michael. Andrew gave an interview to the same newspaper that had published the lies, confessing he had acted out of personal interest and that Michael was a man of integrity. With all obstacles overcome, Catherine and Michael decided to make their union official, but they didn't want a traditional ceremony. They chose something simple and meaningful. The ceremony was held in the courthouse garden, decorated with flowers the staff themselves helped arrange. Emma was the flower girl, scattering petals along the path. Mrs. Rogers organized the celebration, along with other staff members. It was a simple but love-filled gathering, proving that family is built with care, not status. During the ceremony, Michael gave a heartfelt speech. Catherine, thank you for teaching me that love can begin again. Emma, thank you for choosing me as your father. I promise to care for both of you with all the love I have. Emma, dressed in a pink and green dress like the one Catherine had kept, ran to hug Michael. Now you're my real daddy, she said, making everyone laugh and cry at the same time. Catherine looked around and saw the smiling faces of people who had supported her decision, humble staff, colleagues who had changed their minds, family members who had asked for forgiveness. Michael, we did it, Catherine whispered. Did what? Proved that true love conquers any prejudice. The celebration lasted late into the evening, with Michael telling stories to the children present and Catherine receiving congratulations from people who had once criticized her. Months later, Catherine and Michael's story spread beyond the city. Newspapers across the country published articles about the couple who had overcome social prejudice in the name of love. Michael became a respected speaker, talking about resilience in schools and businesses. He continued working part-time at the courthouse, but now as a coordinator for social programs. Emma flourished completely. She became a cheerful and outgoing child again, making friends at school and excelling in her studies. Her drawings now depicted a complete and happy family. Catherine continued her work as a judge with even greater wisdom. Her personal experience made her more sensitive to family cases, helping others find solutions based on love, not just the law. A year after the wedding, Catherine and Michael decided to adopt an orphaned child. Emma was the one who suggested it, saying she wanted a little brother to care for. "Daddy, can you give love to one more child?" Emma asked during dinner. "I can give love to as many children as needed," Michael replied, moved. The adoption of Michael Jr., a 3-year-old boy who had lost his parents, completed the family. Emma became a loving big sister, and Michael proved once again that his heart had no limits. The house was filled with laughter, play, and so much love. Catherine watched Michael playing with the children in the garden and felt grateful for following her heart instead of prejudice. "Do you regret anything?" Catherine asked one evening. "What?" Michael replied, holding her close. "Choosing a simple life instead of pursuing academic recognition again." "Catherine, I found what truly matters. A family who loves me, children who respect me, work that fulfills me. What greater recognition could there be?" Catherine agreed. They had found happiness in life's simple things. 5 years later, Emma, now 10, wrote a school essay about heroes. She chose to write about Michael. "My father is my hero because he proved that it doesn't matter what job you do, but the love in your heart. He taught me that family isn't about money, but about care, and taught me that sometimes the best choices are the ones the heart makes, not the head." The teacher was so moved by the essay that she asked to publish it in the school newspaper. The story touched many other families in the city. Michael framed the essay and placed it on his desk at the courthouse. Whenever someone asked about his journey, he would show Emma's essay and say, "This is the greatest recognition a father could ever receive." Judge Catherine Reynolds remained one of the most respected judges in the region, but now she was also known for her courage in choosing true love. Many people sought her out for advice on relationships and family. The courthouse where it all began became a special place for them. Emma and Michael Jr. often visited their father at work, playing in the same hallway where their love story had started. Mrs. Rogers, who continued working as a secretary, would always tell the story to new employees, turning it into something of a courthouse legend. "It was right here in this hallway that everything changed," she would say, pointing to the spot where Emma had chosen Michael. "We proved that love knows no social class." The broom Michael had used on the day Emma chose him was kept as a memento. Catherine stored it in the attic, alongside other important family keepsakes. Michael never stopped visiting the cemetery. Now he brought Emma and Michael Jr. along, teaching them the importance of honoring those who had passed. Emma always left flowers on her biological father's grave, telling him about her happy life. "Heavenly Dad, Dad Michael takes good care of me," Emma would say during their visits. "You made the right choice when you sent him to us." The family grew in love and prosperity, not the financial prosperity Andrew had offered, but the prosperity of the heart, which was far more valuable. Catherine and Michael became role models for other families facing social prejudice. They received letters from people thanking them for showing that true love exists and can overcome any obstacle. In one such letter, a single mother wrote, "You gave me the courage to choose a good man over a wealthy one. Today I'm happy because I followed your example." Michael returned to writing poetry in his free time, inspired by the happiness he had found. His poems spoke of second chances, true love, and the beauty of life's simple things. Catherine discovered a talent for mediating family conflicts. Her personal experience helped her understand the emotions of those involved in custody and separation cases. "The law is important, but love is fundamental," she often told struggling couples. Emma and Michael Jr. grew up in an environment filled with love and strong values. They learned that character matters more than bank accounts and that kindness is the truest wealth. When Emma turned 15, they held a simple celebration in the same courthouse garden where Catherine and Michael had married. The girl gave an emotional speech. "Thank you, Mom, for letting me choose my father. Thank you, Dad, for teaching me that love is the most important thing in the world. And thank you to everyone who stood by our family when no one believed in us." The party was touching, bringing together people from all walks of life who had become friends of the family over the years. Andrew, who had become a better man after his experience, showed up to congratulate Emma. He had completely changed, marrying for love, a simple schoolteacher, and discovering true happiness. "Catherine, thank you for teaching me a valuable lesson," he said. "Today I'm happy because I learned what really matters." Andrew's transformation showed that people can change when touched by the example of true love. Mrs. Margaret, who had become a doting grandmother to Emma and Michael Jr., put together a family photo album. Every page recounted a special moment from the love journey they had lived. "My dear, you taught me that prejudice is foolishness," she said to Catherine. "Michael is the best son-in-law I could have asked for." The full acceptance of their extended family made their happiness even more complete. 10 years after their first meeting in the courthouse hallway, Catherine and Michael renewed their vows. The ceremony took place in the same location, but now with Emma and Michael Jr. as their witnesses. "We're renewing our vows not because we had to, but because we want to reaffirm our love before everyone," Catherine said during the ceremony. Emma, now a 15-year-old young woman, moved everyone with a speech about how her parents had changed not only their lives, but also the lives of so many others. Michael Jr., 8 years old, scattered petals down the aisle, repeating Emma's gesture from years before. The celebration was even more beautiful than the first, with people from all over the country who had followed their story through the media. A journalist covering the event wrote, "10 years later, the story of Catherine and Michael continues to inspire people to choose true love over social conventions." The feature was published in magazines nationwide, spreading the message even further that love knows no barriers. Michael was invited to write a book about his experience. From Grief to Love, a story of new beginnings, became a bestseller, helping others who had faced similar losses. "I wrote this book to show that there's always hope," Michael said at the launch, "that it's possible to love again after a great loss." The book became required reading in psychology courses and was translated into multiple languages. Catherine also wrote articles on family law, always emphasizing the importance of considering children's feelings in legal decisions. "Children have a natural wisdom we adults sometimes lose," she wrote. "We should listen to them more." Her articles influenced legislative changes, giving children more of a voice in custody cases. The love story between the judge and the janitor became a national example of how true love can overcome prejudice. Schools used their story to teach tolerance and acceptance. Emma grew up and decided to study law, inspired by her mother. Michael Jr. showed a talent for literature, following in his father's footsteps. Both carried the values of love and kindness they had learned at home. "Our children are our greatest legacy," Catherine said in an interview years later. "More important than any ruling I've ever made." Michael agreed. "They're proof that love can change the world, one person at a time." The family continued to grow in love and positive influence. Catherine became a senior judge. Michael became the principal of the school where he taught. Emma graduated with a law degree, and Michael Jr. became a writer. But most importantly, they remained a close-knit family, grounded in love and mutual respect. 30 years after that day in the courthouse hallway, Catherine and Michael became grandparents. Emma had a daughter they named Grace, in honor of the neighbor who had helped them early in their story. Michael Jr. married a teacher and had 2 children. The family grew, but their values stayed the same. "Grandpa, tell the story of how you met Grandma," little Grace would always ask. Michael would tell the story with the same tenderness as always, teaching the new generations about the importance of following the heart. Their family home became a gathering place for people from all walks of life. Wealthy and working-class neighbors alike attended their Sunday lunches, proving that social unity was possible. Catherine, now retired, devoted her time to helping families in conflict. Her personal experience made her an exceptional mediator. Michael Peterson continued giving lectures even at 80 years old. His message of hope and new beginnings kept touching hearts. "Love doesn't age," he would say. "It just grows wiser." Emma became a judge like her mother, but always remembered the lesson she learned as a child, to judge with the heart as well as the law. Michael Jr. wrote several books inspired by his family's story. His novels about true love and overcoming adversity became classics of American literature. Michael's broom, stored in the attic for decades, was donated to a museum that created an exhibit about love stories that changed society. Love Conquers All became the name of the exhibit, visited by thousands every year. The story continued inspiring new generations. Children visited the museum and learned that prejudice can be overcome with love and determination. Catherine and Michael, even in their old age, remained symbols of true love. Journalists sought them out on special occasions to talk about lasting relationships. "The secret is simple," Catherine would say. "Choose someone you admire, not just someone who impresses others." Michael would add, "And remember every day why you chose that person." Every wedding anniversary, they returned to the courthouse hallway where it all began. The spot became a tourist attraction, with a commemorative plaque telling the story. On this spot on date, a 5-year-old child taught adults that true love knows no social barriers. Visitors from around the world came to see the famous Hallway of Love, taking home its message of hope. Emma and Michael Jr. carried on their parents' legacy, helping families and spreading love wherever they went. Little Grace grew up hearing stories about how her grandparents changed the world by choosing love over prejudice. "Grandpa, when I grow up, I'll choose with my heart too," she promised. "That's right, my dear. The heart never makes a mistake when it chooses love." The story of the judge who told her daughter to pick a new father among the lawyers, but she chose the janitor, became a legend of hope. It proved that true love can overcome any obstacle and that life's most important decisions should be made with the heart. And so, a simple choice by a 5-year-old child didn't just change 3 lives. It inspired thousands to believe in true love and fight society's prejudices. The courthouse where it all began still operated, but now it had a special story to tell. The hallway where Emma chose Michael became a symbol that the truest justice comes from the heart. Catherine, Michael, Emma, and Michael Jr. lived happily, proving that families are built on love, not money or social status. Their story kept inspiring generations, a reminder that true love always finds a way. The end of the story. And you, dear reader, what did you think of this touching story? Share in the comments which part moved your heart the most, and if you know a similar story. Do you believe love can conquer any prejudice? Leave a like if the story touched you, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other heartwarming tales. Your participation means so much to us.